welcome to Let's Talk Personal. I'm your host, Frances Reimers. So happy to see everybody this week. We took a little bit of a hiatus last week so I could have some family time, but we are large and in charge with you now until all the way into September, so I'm very excited about that. Thanks for joining us, and if you'd like to join in on the conversation, you can certainly join us on social media. You can get us at LTP Brand Radio on Twitter, and Let's Talk Personal on Instagram. If you'd like to talk personally to me, you can reach me at Your Firestarter on Twitter and Firestarter CEO on Instagram. Love your feedback. Love your engagement. If you have suggestions of people that you'd like to have on the show, I am all ears, so send that information my way. This week, we are talking about two topics that are probably my two favorite topics in the whole wide world, which is branding and sports. And I'm so excited to have my guest today. This conversation has been a long time in the works, and hopefully one that will continue long into the future because it's very hot, very pertinent. I have with me today Jamian Christian, who is the head men's basketball coach at Mount St. Mary's University. And so I'm very excited. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm fired up to be here. Thanks for having me on. Excited for this opportunity.
I'm excited that someone is fired up to be here. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Great. I'm so super excited to have you here because you're not only are you involved in sports, but you're also a big believer of personal brand, and we're going to talk a lot about that. So why don't you let the audience know, update the crew here, what you do and how you got to the position that you're in now, because it's such an amazing story.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting when you decide to be a college basketball coach. There's really no direct road that you're going to be able to take, and so you got to really have a lot of faith and confidence in yourself. You got to have a great support system around you, and you got to really be diligent trying to follow your dream. And I played at Mount St. Mary's. I played for a legendary head coach in Jim Phelan, who's just one of the best who's ever done it. And so I had a great foundation with him. My high school coach is in the Virginia State High School Basketball Hall of Fame. So just had a great foundation of really good leaders and coaches growing up and people to follow. And then soon from there, I went on to work at a place called Emory and Henry, which is in southwestern Virginia.
How big is that school?
It's about 800 students.
Right. Okay.
It's just outside of Bristol, Virginia.
Right.
I had a chance to work for a legendary head coach there, Bob Johnson, who the ODAC Coach of the Year award is actually named after. So I had a chance to work for another legendary head coach who's had a ton of men's basketball Division I head coaches as well. And I think when I entered that opportunity, It was interesting. I had a chance to go work as a director of basketball operations and make $26,000 a year, and I chose.
Don't spend it all in one place.
When you're starting out in basketball, you're getting in there. But I chose $12,000 to work for Emory and Henry,
right?
Because I believed in Coach Johnson, and I believed in what he had been able to do with people along his coaching tree, and that was fun.
And I'm glad that you said that you chose, because my follow-up question that I was thinking of is, in other career fields, marketing, other professional services, we can often choose, well, I would like to work for that organization. I would like to work in this particular industry. Do you have that ability in coaching, or is it really just where opportunities open up and you're the right man or woman for the job at the time? Can you pick and choose?
That's a great question. I think, when you get to a certain point in your career, you have the opportunity to choose where you work and maybe who you work for. Mm-hmm. But I think early on, it's about taking the best of what you have in front of you. And whether it's working basketball camp or going to hear speakers or going to sit and watch practice, I think you've got to kind of create your own opportunities early in the process. And then from there, you get a chance to make some decisions on what's best for you and what you think is best. I really always tell people when they ask me about getting in, I said, really just drop all your barriers. Right. And, everyone comes in with a preconceived notion of where they need to be at and when they need to be there.
Right.
The universe doesn't know anything about where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And so,
right.
Lock in, put yourself in a position where your work can show out and where you can learn the most you can.
Right.
And when the opportunity is there for you, be ready to attack it.
Right. Isn't there, forgive me, people don't tweet ugly things at me. Isn't there a song right now that's something about be humble, sit down?
Yeah, I think it's be humble, be kind.
No. That's somebody else. I'm thinking of a rap song. Isn't it Kendrick Lamar or somebody that has a? Yes. Yep. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So basically, a good takeaway from his song, and I give myself a golden star for the day for actually putting those two together, is you remain humble and you remained focused to the larger prize that you wanted to get to.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important. Making that decision to take $12,000 a year, and that's a big part of me.
Right? Were you living in a van down by the
river?
No,
I wasn't living in a van. I had an apartment right across from campus that was paid for by the university, and I was really fortunate to have that, and so I was able to just kind of maneuver that way. But I think I've always tried to continue to have that as a big part of me. It's just if you're a person who's self-made, you can never be broken because you can rebuild yourself. And
Right.
so, I really feel like working from the ground up, being able to have a great mindset of appreciation for everything people are being able to do for you, you can really achieve some special things.
Right. And I'm sure since you worked for so many legendary coaches, there was an infinite amount of lessons that you learned on the court. What did you learn from these men or the men that were surrounding you on these teams as you were coming up about brand?
Well, all the great coaches that I worked for, and you're talking about Bob Johnson, you're talking about Tony Shaver, you're talking about Shaka Smart, Pat Flannery.
Right.
I mean, these are like a who's list of great coaches in many
Right.
different communities. They all have a thing that they believed in.
Right.
Coach Johnson, wanted you to, be all that you were able to be. I mean, that was
Right.
one of his big statements.
Right.
Coach Smart is really legendary in his terms of what he does to try to address his team about things that are not just about basketball, about leadership materials. And so I think you kind of learn by watching what each one of these guys do well. And just you learn a little bit about personal brand. And number one, their personal brand all began with something they were deeply passionate about. And so, it'd be silly of me to go into my situation and try to be a brand manager of something that they believe in. I had to really do a great job of finding what I believed in. And, I really believe that, we can really change college basketball at Mount St. Mary's if we have the right people with the right kind of energy and passion, and we really work towards it on a day-to-day basis, and we generate enough amount of love within our program, within our
Right.
community, that we can really achieve anything. And so our personal brand is really symbolized a lot by love and the passion we play with one another.
And did you happen to witness any brand don'ts along the way?
Well, I think you want to be very cautious of what you're putting out there. And I think
Right.
the most important thing with brand is it's got to be who you are.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, they go out and they create these brands that aren't who they really are. And
Right.
I think when you do that, you're setting yourself up for failure. And when you're
Yes.
able to, it's pretty scary when things happen and people look back and say, well, I thought you were standing for this or standing against this. And,
Right.
and so I've just really tried to be really conscious about what I actually believe in,
Right.
and putting the people around me that actually believe in the same things.
Right.
And that way that our brands are linked together.
Right.
It doesn't mean that's always going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes.
Right.
But I think it's important to have those brands really closely together and make sure it's something that you believe in.
Right. Authenticity is something that I talk about pretty regularly on this show and in the work that I do because, and I'm sure you have this conversation with your athletes all the time, and we'll get a little more into that a little bit later. But, I tell people all the time is you can build this amazing brand on social media, but you have one interaction with somebody in person and you are not the person that they thought that you were. It just comes tumbling down. And as a coach, you have a lot of different pathways where that could hurt you. You have media, you have the players, you have parents, you have the university, and so it's an ever evolving consideration that you have to be managing and have to be very aware, but also very authentic.
Yeah, and I think when you're authentic about it, it makes your life easier to live. Because you're
Right.
not trying to do like a checklist, like how am I supposed to act,
Well, isn't there a saying like an honest person doesn't have to have a good memory?
That's valid.
I mean, I
that's
think the
valid.
same thing with your
100%.
brand is that if you're authentic in who you are, you don't have to be thinking about, well, how am I going to cover this up? How am I going to reword this?
Definitely.
Have you ever, I do have to tell you, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day who will remain nameless, and they thought that you were Shaka. So you can tell him that you two not only work together, but apparently some people think that you're doppelgangers. So the two of you guys can share that. Because I showed the person, I was like, hey, this is my next guest on the show, and they're like, that was the coach from VCU, right? And I was like, no. I was like, they work together, not the same person. Yeah. So you might have to distance yourself just a little because people think that you're potentially body doubles. Yeah. One thing that I really enjoy about you, and what I really enjoyed when I was cyber stalking, as I do for all of my potential guests, is you have your own website. You have your own website under your own URL, which is, as a brand person, that's the first thing I would tell somebody to do. That is step number one. But you have this really great site that is just you, that is separate from your day-to-day duties at Mount St. Mary's. Talk a little bit about when you made the decision to take that on, and what has been the benefits and drawbacks to having that outside platform to use for your own visibility.
Yeah, well, I got to give all the credit of that to my girlfriend, Ali Vadas. She works at Jellyfish. She does an unbelievable job. She's in digital marketing, so
she's right there on it.
She really understands it.
So she knows, fellow brand people, they know what's up.
Absolutely. And, it was just simply a place to find, if you want to find out more information about what we're trying to do and the things we're trying to achieve in this life, if you want to find out more about our brand and what we're trying to do, there's a simple place to go find it. We have our camps and clinics and organization stuff on there that you can find it. All our social media stuffs are linked into that page. And so, it gives you a platform where if you Google my name, that's going to be one of the first thing that comes up.
Yep.
And it just gives you a pretty good foundation of who I am and what I believe in. And, I got to give her credit, though. She does an unbelievable job of maintaining it. And
because that's half the battle.
Well, yeah, because you want it to be up to date, right?
If it's not fresh, you fall off.
Absolutely.
But I thought one particular thing about that website, because it had to have been a strategic decision, at least on your part, because you have to follow up, is the consulting piece. And so what have you gotten from that, and what are you hoping to do with that?
Well, I've gotten a chance to speak to a few organizations. One thing I love leadership. I love stepping into groups and teaching leadership and kind of watching how groups work together. One of the things coaches all do, they really do a great job of studying historic teams, like Boston Celtics or LA Lakers.
Did you watch the 30 for 30?
Absolutely.
It was fantastic.
It's fantastic to watch,
great.
But I've tried to really learn a lot about the business side. We work in a small confined area in basketball. I have 15 guys I manage. I have about 10 other people that I manage outside of that. So we get a chance in a high-pressure situation. You're judged off 33 games a year.
Right.
If you're really lucky, you get to play 34 or 35 in those last 3 or 4 games in the most highly pressured situations there are in the world for that group of guys. And so, what I want to make sure I'm doing is that I'm learning as much as I can. Iron sharpens iron.
Right.
So the more I can grow my network with the consulting and being able to talk to people outside of basketball on things that maybe I can do better, and then I can turn around in pressurized situations and help them understand maybe what they're not doing so well leadership-wise, what they can do better, or some things that I'm really seeing. And a lot of it is just being able to create an environment with great positive energy where everyone's passionate about what they're trying to do. And sometimes as you get going a little bit, you get a little deterred from what the main focus is. And so that's been an exciting part of it that we've been able to add each year, speaking to more and more groups. And it's something I'm really looking forward to doing more and more as we continue to grow this side of it.
And so I don't want to scoop anything, but is a book or a series or something on organizational development or organizational leadership in the works for you? Is that something that's on your content horizon?
Yeah, I've always wanted to write a book. I'm a communications major from college, and so I love this idea of writing a book. And so one day I'll really want to be able to sit down and really start to put our leadership principles together and the things that we believe in. And right now I'm really getting a chance to enjoy a lot of great books, though. Jim Collins, Good to Great. Everyone should read that one.
Absolutely.
Any John Gordon book, I would urge you to run out there and get some of that information. There's such great books. We'll have our team read those books.
Is that what they're reading this year?
Oh, they're definitely reading that one. They're reading a bunch of those this year.
Okay.
Patrick Lencioni has some great, real business fable books that are great, great to read. And so, every year I'm just trying to find more and more and more items that I can read and put into my cabinet so I can continue to get better and continue to learn. And then I'm going to make sure I funnel that out to our team to allow them to be able to pick some things up.
Right. One book in particular is next week's guest, who is Malcolm Lemons. He just launched his book, Lessons from the Court. Yeah. I think this would be, because he's a very young man, and so it would be great for the team. So to plug next week's person when we're talking about books, that's definitely one you can pick up. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll actually start talking about these young men that he has the opportunity to coach. So hang in there. We'll be right back. And we're back. Thanks for joining us. Joining me today is Jamie and Christian, the head men's basketball coach from Mount St. Mary's University. If you'd like to join in the conversation from today, a lot of really good stuff is coming out of today. So if you'd like to join the conversation, you can join me at LTP Brand Radio on Twitter or at Let's Talk Personal on Instagram. Love to get your feedback. If you missed part of the segment earlier, this will be posted online. The full show will be posted online for all of your viewing pleasure a little bit later. Before the break, we were talking about you and your brand and how you got from one place to the other. Now I definitely want to talk about probably one of the hottest topics in high school and collegiate athletics right now, which is the brand of the players themselves. Yeah. And obviously you spend a huge portion of your year looking at the next crop of amazing young men for you to coach. So what would be some, in your years of experience and seeing how new technologies have come online and things have dropped off and changed and all of this, what would be some advice that you would give to high school recruits who are looking to put their just absolute best foot forward to get a spot on your team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I don't know if a lot of people are talking enough about that for these high school kids, right? And so, they're creating these brands, but I don't know if they're really thinking them all the way through from the time they're 15 to 16 years old, and they're kind of continuing this thing on. And so, we spend a lot of time looking at their social media, because the things that they're writing, we can learn a lot about them, their personalities, how they react to failure, how they react to their breakup with their girlfriends, how they react to anything they're putting on Twitter and on Instagram. So number one thing I want to see is how much time are you spending in the gym? Right. Are you really working on your craft? It's okay to have fun and have a good time, but I want guys who are really passionate and really focused on improving their game. And so, I want to see how much time you're spending in the gym. What I found, the guys who spend the most time in the gym are not on social media as much, right? I mean, it's 1 or 2 times a day. It's very, very pointed, very focused, and I like those who are focused. Number 2, I'm looking to see how emotional you are when things go badly, right? We can tell a lot. I always tell our guys, don't be an emotional tweeter. Right. What I mean?
That's everyone in the world.
Everyone like putting all their feelings out on Twitter.
Right. Yes.
And then I'm saying, well, in 3 or 4 years, you're gonna have a chance to go for a job interview or a chance to go to the NBA or play overseas, and they're gonna look back at everything you've said about yourself from the time you're 15, 16 years old. What do you want them to say about you? And so we really try to do a great job with them when they come to us as freshmen, really trying to educate them on the power of social media and the things they need to do better within it. And, even have them go back and delete some things that maybe they're embarrassed of, and just try to encourage them to understand that, maybe how you feel right now, give it a second, think it through, see how it's going to impact you and use it. And so I think as they're trying to build their personal brand, I want guys that their personal brand is based on their ability to produce, based on their ability to focus and continue to get better.
And do you think high school athletes and collegiate athletes, in addition, do you think they really understand the concept of personal brand? Or is it kind of this amorphous thing that they think they understand, but they don't really?
I don't think they understand. I mean, it's really a copycat.
Right.
When you watch what they're all doing, they're copycatting one another, and they're thinking, this is a great idea, let me try it. And so it's kind of interesting to kind of see this whole dynamic. And not that I think having a personal brand is a bad thing.
Right.
But again, I think it's very important to have an idea of what you want to stand for before you go out and start copying or imitating what other people are doing. Right. The other thing they always do, I give them a hard time about is, you'll see a guy get an offer, and you see a kid, he'll retweet every offer that his friends get.
Yes.
It's, well, if you're sitting there watching your phone all day, how much better are you getting?
Right.
If you have the time to go through everyone else's Twitter account and retweet what they're doing.
Why are you being his hype man?
Right. Like,
why are you doing that?
Let's be focused on what you're trying to do. And, then the other thing I don't think you should tweet about yourself. Right. I think you should tweet about your teammates. You should tweet about other things. And so we're trying to pull a lot of things from their social media. I mean, these guys come into the office, and we have a file full of their social media stuff. They're usually shocked by this. Right? Because I just think it's very important to know what we're getting into. Right. I think you can look at my website. You can look at what we're trying to do. You can see exactly what the Mount's about, what Coach Christian's about. I want to know exactly what you're about.
And how much does, I'm sure every English teacher in America will applaud me right now, but how important is grammar? Because, I mean, from my side of the world, when these young men come looking for a job and I look at their social media and their grammar is atrocious, I can't hire them. Is that something you guys actually even touch on, or that's not my wheelhouse?
You're evaluating everything.
Right.
That's a component that you're evaluating with. And, I actually think with social media, they're getting much better with their grammar. They're getting more creative with their
Right.
words. I mean, it's
Right.
it's really possibly turning into a good thing in that direction in terms
Right.
of like they're being way more conscious about what they're writing,
Right.
but they're not always conscious about how it sounds and what's going to happen after
Yeah,
the fact. But
absolutely.
they've really done a much better job over the years with their grammar and being sensitive about what they're putting out there.
And you definitely hear horror stories of teams who have had major recruits that they've actually reneged offers from because of sketchy social media. Has that been something that you've been a part of?
All the time. I mean,
Okay.
we'll have 3 spots. We'll offer 6 to 10 guys at each spot, and we're trying to cut it through to the best we can get. And we've cut a lot of guys because of their social media stuff, because of how they're reacting to things that are going on in the world and things they're saying on Twitter. I mean, I don't want that in my program. If
Right.
if you're talking reckless about your teammates or about your family or about your school, I mean, I don't want an emotional tweeter in my program.
Right.
And so we've cut a lot of guys. A lot more guys than you probably realize. We've cut a lot of guys for that because we're paying attention to it.
Right.
And again, like your personal brand is going to become our personal brand.
Right.
And they got to be in line with one another. And,
Right.
like if you guys are tweeting or on Instagram or Snapchat at 3, 4 in the morning, when they're 16, 17 years old, that's really scary to me.
Right.
Because, again, how good are you going to be at basketball the next day? How good are you going to be at school the next day if it's 3, 4 in the morning and you're still up and kind of playing around? So, we've cut a lot of guys because of that. And so I'm probably harsher on it than most guys.
Right.
Maybe because of my age at
Right.
35 years old.
Right.
But, I just want to make sure that we're bringing in the guys that are focused on the task at hand.
And how do you talk to the guys about obviously as a team you can't mandate, they're not paid employees. You can't mandate anything, but how do you talk to the guys about community service or doing things off the court to enhance their brand?
Well, we do a lot of community service as a program.
Right.
And so, we're on the higher end of that. I would bet probably of all college basketball programs. So they don't have time to do much of their own community
Right.
service because we're really tying them into our community and getting them to do those kind of things. But, I do encourage them when they're doing good,
Right.
to put it out there. We have some guys that are really excellent. We have guys that are great photographers. We have guys that are in our program that are tremendous painters and
Right.
sketch artists and rappers and all kinds of stuff, right? And they're doing
Right.
it the right way. And so, I encourage them, and especially on Instagram, to really that's a great place to build your brand
Yeah.
and be cognizant of what you're doing. And I want them to show their creativity. The
Right.
world is not used to basketball players showing their creativity.
Right.
Right. And so
Right.
I want them to show
Absolutely.
their creativity. One of the reasons why a lot of these guys come here and play for a guy like me, because I'm not going to shut the door on anything that you can become.
Right.
I want you to be as good at as many things as possible, and I'm going to ask you to do those kind of things, and I'm going to want you to do those kind of things. And so when they come here and have a chance to play for our staff and play for our program, I'm encouraging the things that they do
Right.
well and the things that they can do to change the world.
Right.
I want them to really put out there and do a great job of.
And so for all the parents who are listening to today's show and they're taking copious notes because they have a child who is in the process of recruiting, when did the eyeballs start? As a coach, when did the eyeballs start going on a kid?
Usually when you're about 16, that's when we start looking. 15 is a little bit too young for me. It's just
Right.
too much growth and too much stuff that can go on. But the great thing with any of the social media stuff, I can start recruiting you at 16, but I can go back and look at
Right.
whatever's behind.
Right.
And again, it's not like if it was something where when they're 14 years old,
Right.
because obviously you're 14, you're not at that level. But as you get older, you're trying to see maturity, you're trying to see growth. Those that mature the fastest always have the most success.
Right.
And so we want those who are maturing at the fastest rate because we know they're going to give us great success when they reach our program, and we want to see that growth.
And for a lot of kids out there, they give money over to for-profit companies who offer to build this platform and website and do all of these things for them. Are you, as a coach, are you seeing that as helpful, hurtful, or is it neutral?
I think it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I think anytime you're trying to do something that's going to change the world or change someone's life, we should be educators to encourage them to be able to do that.
Right.
And sometimes it's about trying to teach them the time management of it.
Right.
Right. And then we always say when you cross these lines here, a lot of people say that,
Right.
and we got to have ultimate focus on the task at hand, the goal at hand.
Right.
But I think when you're outside those lines, your ability to be able to do multiple things, I think is pretty important because
Right.
the reality of it is some of our guys might be professional basketball players, but some of them probably won't be.
Right.
I want to make sure that in the college setting that we're in, they're going to have the ability to find what they're going to be great at in this life.
Right.
And I want to be in a position to be able to encourage them to do those things.
Right. And also have them suited well to move on to those other things, because I think there's would you agree or disagree that there's kind of a leniency in the sports world that just doesn't exist in the professional services world? And if their brand is not tip top, like someone, I can't hire them. I can't bring them over. And so I think it's really great that you're trying to make them whole men rather than just whole basketball players.
Right.
And I think that's extremely important and rare. I don't hear about it too much, so other coaches take note of that. But one thing that was that really was of curiosity, mostly more than anything to me, about the recruiting process is obviously you're looking at the kid. Obviously you're watching what he's doing. How much does mom and dad's or their guardians' social media play into the recruiting process? Are your eyes on them too?
Well, the reality of it is, this generation, they listen to their parents more than any generation ever.
I know.
They're afraid of disappointing their parents.
Right.
They value what their parents say. They value their parents' experience. So I think more than ever, we have to look at the parents and what they're saying and how they're believing.
Right.
I think when I'm watching parents' social media, the thing I want to see, are they being supportive?
Right.
Or are they trying to be the show? There's
Right.
a big difference. Because if you're trying to be supportive of your son or daughter,
right,
you're putting the articles out there of their successes, how proud you are of them, baby pictures, all that kind of stuff. I think that's tremendous. I think that shows love and compassion that's true. I think when you start seeing that parents are trying to be the show, or they're talking bad about their coaching staffs, or talking bad about how many shots they should be getting, or when they start trying to be coaches on Twitter or whatever, that's concerning, because I know they're going to do the same to me.
Well,
and I know the environment that they're coming home to, they're getting that before it goes on Twitter. And so to me, that's a really important thing. I'm really looking at the parents. Apple doesn't far from the tree.
No, never.
Right, and so that's really important. And I think parents right now, they got to make a decision, because I do feel like a lot of parents are going so far to trying to become the show and trying to be the reason why their son or daughter gets recruited. And the reality of it is, your son or daughter's talent and production is going to get them recruited. And so you don't want to be a distraction towards that and towards their focus. And so, again, there's a difference between supportive and being the show. We're looking for supportive, loving, caring parents, because they're gonna be able to really fit into our environment the same way. And though it doesn't always work perfectly, and everyone's learning this social media thing as they're kind of going along, as it kind of burst onto the scene within the last 10 years. But I think that's the big thing we're looking for. We're looking for parents that are supportive. When you have great supportive parents, I think you can really achieve something really special.
Well, building up a great team is no different than building up a great staff in a company, and you have to make sure that all the personalities meld. And when you have a smaller program like yours, it's really important that you have parents and supporters who are all on the same team, literally and figuratively. And so that, it's great that you actually take that extra step. And so speaking of unruly parents, LeVar Ball, of course, everyone's favorite basketball dad, was on WWE the other night. I don't know if you had a chance to
that was fun.
Watch that. Clearly, I mean, he's 100% in on the joke that is, in my opinion, the joke that is him. But it's setting, in my opinion, a very dangerous precedent. And so talk a little bit about your thoughts around that and how you think it's going to impact recruiting and college athletics going forward.
Well, the reality of it is, we've always had parents that have been that extreme.
Right. So this is not new.
It's not a new thing. I mean, we've always had parents that are that extreme in different walks of life. You've had musical artists with parents that are extreme. You've had, actors and actresses that are parents that are extreme. So that's, you're going to have some of this. I think the biggest thing that happens is, now he's got an older son who can back it all up. He's one of the best players in the country. To pick in the draft. I think the dangerous part happens when someone doesn't have the ability to live up to that. To the hype and to the, I wouldn't even say hype, because he lived up to it. He's there, but not able to live up to the expectations of their parents. And then you're dealing with a whole new set of new issues. And so I think that's the hardest part for me, is when I watch that, I just say, if parents start leaning towards that direction too much, and maybe your kid is a really good college basketball player. And they don't feel like they're, if you make it to college basketball, you run the small percentile of basketball players in the world. And that should be celebrated. And if you've got a parent at home who's basically saying you're not good enough, you should be more than this, and that becomes an issue in itself. And I just think every step we take in this life, we should appreciate, instead of looking at what's next. And I feel like that kind of mentality creates a what's next mentality. But we've had that. We've had that with some of the greatest artists and actors and actresses in the country that's ever created. And studies show that you need a certain amount of parental guidance.
We can't be left to our own devices.
So you need a little bit of that. And you look at the top quarterbacks in the country every year that come out of high school and to college. They all have really strong parental development. I mean, that's something that's very important. So the point of that is good, but it's just when it stretches over to the point point where maybe you can't live up to being that good, and now you're dealing with a whole new set of issues for your son who you love, your son or daughter
Right.
you love and you care about. And, you want everyone to feel like if you put everything into it, you put all your time, your effort, your focus,
Right.
that that you've done is all you can do, and that
Right.
you're proud of them.
Right.
And I think that's the most important part of it.
Well, and there's the parental aspect of what's going on with LeVar Ball, but there's also the brand aspect of them creating their own brand and marketing apparatus around this. As a coach, if somebody came in and had a parent and they shared with you that they were going to be building their own, their own brand line and using this as an apparatus to basically build secondary wealth for their child, would that play a role in the recruiting process? Would it help? Would it hurt? Would you, this would have to be a wait and see sort of thing, because from a legal and branding standpoint, it creates a whole nightmare. But from a coaching standpoint, how does that?
Well, it just creates a distraction that you don't always want to deal with. Now, the one thing that's interesting with the Ball family is he really waited till the end of the year before he started doing all this stuff. So, he really actually, as a father, I thought was pretty good
in timing.
In the timing of it. The timing of it was to create excitement for his son in the draft process.
Right.
And, although there were some things that popped up during the course of the time, the majority of it really started after they lost their game.
Right.
And so, I think to that extent, I think he probably handled it the best way he could have.
Right.
He's got a great opportunity there. He's got 3 boys. They're all very talented.
Right.
And so I think, he's trying to make the most out of the opportunity, trying to do something very different that hasn't been done.
Right.
We'll see if he'll be able to complete it. But I think that's a whole new dynamic of, will you be a distraction? And coaches will be afraid of that level of distraction.
Right. But do you think at the NBA level that, when you get to the professional level, you have so many handlers that are keeping the nonsense, the crazy parents, the crazy baby mamas and whatnot at bay. Mm-hmm. Do you think once his son actually starts taking the court for the Lakers that this is going to be a on-court distraction? I think they're going to keep it at,
I don't think it'll be a distraction at all. All these guys in the NBA and these professional athletes have such individual brands.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're
some
all
better than others.
Yeah, some better than others, but they're all operating kind of in their own direction,
right.
Until they come to the floor. And so I think it'll be easier for everyone once he becomes a professional,
right?
And so because it'll almost be expected,
right. And so what advice, if the guys that are currently on your team, if one of them came to you and said, I'm really thinking about starting my own thing. I want, I see this and this looks great for LeVar Ball and the Ball sons. I want to start doing that too. You said you like to keep the door open for anything they like to do. Would this be something that you would encourage?
I'd encourage them to give me a good plan.
Right.
I'd want to see it. Let's
see the business plan.
The good thing is, when you're on a college campus, you have so many people there that can help you with whatever dreams and ventures you want to achieve. And so, it would be about what's the plan?
Right.
Let's take this idea and let's make it a plan of how you want to do it and how it's going to impact you and how it's not going to hurt our program or how it's going to enhance our program, whatever it is.
Right.
Again, I think we're in a great place to help educate them on what they can become.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, that's really the goal and the task of what we've got to try to do. And so I wouldn't discourage it. I said, well, give me the plan. If they didn't have me a good plan, I'd be like, well, we probably should wait until you have a good plan.
Right, exactly. Well, we're going to take a break. We've been chatting for a hot minute. When we get back, we're actually going to get into the good and bad and ugly of social media and round it out with the fun section of the day, finding out all of his likes and loves out there in the social media world. So hang in there. We'll be right back. Hello, and we're back. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to join the conversation, of course, as always, you can join us on Twitter at LPT Brand Radio and on Instagram at Let's Talk Personal. Getting back to this amazing conversation that we have with Mr. Christian here, so many good tidbits of information, parents and potential future superstars. If you're not listening to this conversation, you're definitely missing the boat. But what I want to get back to social media, obviously, most of your career you've been on a social media journey. And so what is some good, bad, and ugly of lessons learned for yourself and your brand as you've made this evolution in your career?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is really just about being consistent.
Right.
You know, you get really locked into whatever you're doing through the course of your day, and you look up and you may not have posted something. I think consistency is very important. I think people want to know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
They want to know what we're doing inside our basketball program on a day-to-day basis. So just being consistent. You know, we've tried to put together a strong plan for all our program stuff, but I encourage everybody to do that for their own. You know,
Correct.
What kind of things do you want to put out there about yourself?
Listen to that, all my clients. Yes.
You know, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
You know, because you have these holidays, you have all these different events that pop up in the course of your lifetime, and that you want to share, and that's important to share. You know, for people that are looking at you for inspiration or just
Right.
want to follow you. And so, you know, having a good plan for that, I think, is really key and important.
Right.
And I think that the biggest mistake I've made is that I haven't had a good enough plan. You know,
Right.
I haven't thought deep enough about it in time. And although I think we're active on social media, I've been very active on it, and I think being active is sort of like playing good defense. Like,
Right.
if you're really active, things usually work themselves out. But I think
Right.
having a better detailed plan, I think, makes it all better and makes it all work.
Now, do you use a distribution platform like Hootsuite or anything to program things in advance, or are you a really all day, every day posting it right from your phone?
I'm all day, every day, and just trying to post things. And I've thought a lot about, you know, using a third party and being able to generate more out there. And, you know, I've been fortunate. We've been in the NCAA tournament a couple times, and so
Right.
that obviously helps.
Yes.
You know, so sometimes you don't need all of that. And,
Right.
you know, you have a couple good writers that follow you and that retweet your things or
Right.
repost your things. And so those things obviously help. But I think it's something that everyone should consider. I mean, if you should be having that kind of conversation, you know, if you really want to build your personal brand, you want to build your business.
Right.
You know, you should look into everything that you can to try to make that brand, you know, be as big as it possibly can be.
Now, in the college coaching space, it is jam-packed, full of people and personalities. You know, you said that you had a plan for yourself. Do you give any thought about, you know, what content can I build that kind of separates me from every other 30-something
Yeah.
black head coach of
Yeah.
some odd team? What goes into your thought process of the content that you're creating to try to pull yourself apart?
Yeah, you know, I'm just trying to be real. You
Right.
know, I think if I'm real with the things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and if I'm going to be different, because
Right.
no one can be me and I can't be any of them. You know, I
Right.
want people to see my family. I want them to see, you know, the love I have for my son. I want them to see, you know, when we're having a great time together, but I also want them to see when we're putting everything into our work and how hard it's got to
Right.
be and the things we've got to do. And I think if you can just be real with yourself and you can look at some other things, and people are doing a lot of neat things out there. And, you know, I think you should be one that wants to investigate and learn about what other people are doing and trying to find a way that you can apply it and use it in the right direction for yourself. And that's what we've tried to do.
Right. And what's your favorite platform? What's your go-to?
Yeah, I love Twitter.
Really?
I love
Okay.
Twitter. I'm, you know, I follow like 230 so people or something
Right.
like that, and it used to be 200 because I wanted
Right.
to keep the quality that I'm following to a certain rate. Like, I'm getting my news from certain people, and I want to do that, and so I've kind of expanded it out over the last year or so. But I think it's important. I mean, I think if you have too many people that you're following, I think it can be an issue because you
Yes.
you have too much information.
Right.
You know, I want the right amount of information coming back in that I can then take articles from. I'm a big reader each morning. I'm reading articles off of Twitter and
Right.
and trying to just find stuff that I wouldn't normally find. And
Right.
I would say when you're creating a list to people to follow, don't just follow athletes. You know, I follow
Right.
a ton of different business
Yeah.
people, and just follow things that maybe you wouldn't even follow,
Right.
just so you can learn something different on a day-to-day basis because it's right there in front of you.
And you never know what could be applicable to your profession from somewhere else. You mentioned very briefly talking about the press. A lot of people, you know, coaches, celebrities, athletes themselves, they tend to shy away from having a connect relationship with many people in the media. This is something I actually disagree with. I think the more visible you are, the more direct contact you should have with the media so that you can control the message. What has been your experience with being connected with media on the media on social media?
Well, my thing is I can only be me, right? And so I'm a connector. You know, when you meet me and I meet people, like I like to connect with people, and that's one of my biggest strengths. I think when you watch our teams play, you see how connected we are as a full program with one another.
Right.
And so, what I've tried to do is, anyone that's involved with our program, I just try to be connected with, in some way, whether it's sharing a story with them or sharing an article that I'm reading or talking about our team or talking about their family. I'm just trying to be myself. I'm just trying to be connected to them in some other way that's bigger than just the platform that we're following, right? And I think that's really important that, we're all going through a lot of things through the course of our life or the course of our day, and you want to be the person that people pick the phone up to and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I really need your help with this. And I think if you can continue to be that kind of person, I think things will work out for themselves the way they are, and that's who I am. And so that's a big part of my brand, is just being a person who's there. And every time I talk to someone, I say, what can I help you with? And I want at some point when people say, oh, I need help with this, I love helping them out with things. And, and so when
karma.
And when I'm connected to the media, and they need help on a story, I want to be the person they want to reach out to and find out. And, and then the same thing happens when things happen in our program, good or bad. I want to be able to share with them, the things that we need to share and the avenues that I need them to help us out with. And then I also call a lot of people and ask for advice. You know, guys like Jeff Goodman and Evan Daniels. I mean, these guys are great people to talk to about advice. And about, what do you think about this situation? Or, I'm recruiting this kid. What do you think? And those guys have been a big help to me in my career, just being able to have conversation with them. And the other thing that I've really enjoyed, you talk to beat writers. There are a lot of beat writers that follow these great programs. Michigan State and Michigan and Texas. And if you get a chance to get to know these beat writers, you can learn a lot about Tom Izzo. Like Joe Rexrod was at Michigan State, was a guy who followed Michigan State football, and now he's down in Nashville. And I had a summer project where I was basically trying to find out more about Tom Izzo, and so I called their beat writer, and he gave me 30-40 minutes about Tom Izzo and great stories, and so those beat writers are with those guys every single day,
all the time,
right?
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
They have stories that they can't even print,
but they
have stories that they can print, and so beat writers have been a big help to me in terms of learning the game of basketball and how people run their programs, and so it's a lot of guys out there that have really helped me along the way.
That's awesome. So we have just a few minutes left in the show, and I want to get to the fun stuff. I want to peer inside of what you're enjoying out there on social media and other brands that you find exciting out on social media. And so the big question, the first big question is, whose personal brand is giving you life right now?
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of not a great answer, but
Thanks for selling it up front.
Because it's not personal. I love watching what Under Armour does with their social media.
Oh yeah,
I think by taking what they're doing with their social media, giving you the ability to buy products from their Instagram. And what they're doing right now with their social media, I think is really special. You look at a company that came from remaking the T-shirt.
To now
they're making
truck.
To now redoing all kind of lifestyle brands. And so I love what they're able to do. I think what they're doing with their social media, they're connecting to their people that love their product. And so I've really enjoyed kind of watching them grow that platform over the last 3 or 4 years. And so it's just a very exciting brand. So it's not a personal brand, but I think Under Armour is very personal to a lot of people. Because they've done a great job of connecting with each individual.
They're stellar with market research. They know how to take that data and convert it into what people want to see and hear. So what is one social media trend that you just wish would just stop? Yeah,
we in college basketball, we got a lot of guys that are transferring, and we got lots. What I really wish would end was when these guys write these letters and they post them on social media, like oh, I'd like to give a special thanks to whatever. I just think, I'm kind of tired of seeing that. I mean, everyone they say, oh, I thank God for that opportunity, and then they kind of go through their whole deal. And I would love for them just to wait for the beat writers that are going to pick their stuff up and just give that story to the beat writers, and then maybe repost the story from the beat writers. It's sort of interesting because it's like you're trying to build your personal brand and you're spending a ton of time working on the lettering for this and how important this is. And at the end of the day, if you wait for the beat writer, I think you'll have more people that will follow it, and then you can you'll
get more eyes on
the
it.
Other direction. And so what ends up happening is the beat writers take a small portion from that and put it into the story, and so now you don't get the outward return that you want, which is more following.
Exactly.
So, I do wish that would slowly slowly fade away.
Hopefully it will. And but also that particular topic as a whole, it's kind of like, slow your roll. You're not as big of a deal as you think you are. Like, we don't need a press release about you transferring to another school.
Let the press do the press release.
Yeah, exactly. Let the press do their job.
And then I think following that, you want more followers and gain more access that way.
Right.
Maybe 3 or 4 days later you provide something like that.
Right.
That now you have the list that you want.
Exactly. So who is an athlete or a celebrity that you think is producing the best content right now?
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio put some pretty good stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's all based on stuff that's better for the world. I mean, he's huge on the environment.
Yes.
And so, I follow him on Instagram. And so just learning a lot, because, one thing I don't know a lot about as a basketball coach is about the environment.
Right.
And so I've enjoyed over the last year or so following his things and things he's doing just in terms of the environment. And he almost does it just about every day with a new spot in the world that's something different. That's another struggle in the world with the environment. So that's been really neat to kind of follow as a guy who's as a tremendous actor he is. Right. And a true activist. Right. And then just showing the world ways that we can improve it.
That's not the answer I expected from you. So that was interesting to hear. So who is, obviously your girlfriend cannot be the answer, but who is your social media crush? Who is somebody whose brand you wish your brand emulated or was closely aligned with, or just someone that you're like, they're so great, they're doing it right?
Yeah, well, I think someone it's someone I really like. I like Colin Kaepernick, what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
I think really brave in what he's doing. I mean, it's almost like he's getting locked out of the NFL. But I admire those who are not afraid to step out and say how they feel and to stand up for what they believe in.
Right.
And so that's been really neat to watch his stuff that he's been able to do and how much money he's giving away to try to make the world a better place. And so I've really enjoyed watching his. I'm not going to emulate it.
Right.
But, I respect it. I respect him not being afraid to stand up for who he is. I think one of the parts about being a United States citizen is having that freedom to speak up for how you believe. And so I respect those who have the freedom to do that.
I do. I really appreciate the fact that, and I also am a big fan of his social media and what he's trying to do. I think it's incredibly honorable for him to continue to keep giving and in such large dollar amounts, even though he doesn't have not that he's going to starve anytime soon, but that he's giving such large amounts to a variety of causes, even though he has no potential job, so to speak, on the horizon. And I think that speaks much larger volumes than anything he could do on the field, in my opinion.
Well, he's creating true value in life.
Right.
And I think when you're able to do that, and that's more than respectable. It's something that everybody should want to be able to do. Climb to the highest spot where you can be, and then help as many people as you can.
Right.
And so, I love the fact that he's not afraid to step out there and do that.
Right. Well, amen to that. Well, we are out of time for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. It was great to have you. You can actually connect to him through the Let's Talk Personal Twitter and Instagram accounts. So if you would like to hear more of his amazing mantras and philosophies, you can certainly do that. But of course, Mount St. Mary's University is just right up the road in Maryland. So if you are a DC resident, you can certainly pop up there and cheer them on this upcoming season. And I would encourage you to do that. Stay tuned next week, where my next guest is going to be former NBA player and now current author and entrepreneur, Malcolm Lemons. So again, you can see us on Twitter and Instagram. And this actual episode will be posted post haste as soon as we log off. But have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.